What's up, Chiefs Kingdom and everybody else involved? Back on another episode of Chiefs Focus Live. We got Quentin, Caleb, Tommy, myself. After the draft, got a lot to talk about. I know you guys went to the draft. I didn't get that luxury this year. So let's start off with your draft experiences. I know you two guys went together and apparently had a little bit of fun. I know Quentin did. I mean, this guy can have fun at a church. So
that's true. Hey, Jesus drank wine. So it was great. Cave and I went together. We went on the first day. It was a ton of fun. Got to meet some people, other fan bases. You know, the NFC North was very well represented. A ton of Bears, Packers, Lions, and Vikings fans. So we were sort of situated near some Bears fans, and so chatted up with them a little bit, sort of hung out with them all night. But it was awesome just to see all the Chiefs fans that showed out. There was a group of us standing next to Caleb that had a lot to drink.
Oh, they did. They did.
They had. So it was fun hanging out with them. You know, it's always nice to sort of have your hype guy, and that's what they were, right? They were just having a ton of fun too. So it was very infectious. And that was just how the crowd was, you know, seeing when Patrick Mahomes came out holding the Lombardi. I mean, the whole crowd just lost it. So yeah, it was. The fun was infectious. It truly was. The NFL did a great job putting it on, so it's cool to have events like this coming to Kansas City now. This is what happens when you get a new airport terminal. It's what happens when you invest in a streetcar. You know, this is the sort of stuff that you're able to get as you invest more in the city. Places and events want to come to your town. So
and the fact that you won two out of three Super Bowls in the last 4 years is pretty good too. That's a good reason to come, bring the draft to Kansas City.
That's true.
So Tommy, I know you went.
Dude, it was a blast, man. I just first of all, man, Kansas City is the place to be right now. I'm telling you, we got so much going on right now. But just having the draft here over the weekend, man, was amazing. We were talking right before we got on the air about how, just being in Union Station, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go back in the hospitality room and just kind of see in depth, like the players coming in and out of the room, and the excitement on their faces, and also some of them had despair on their faces, not being drafted in the positions that they had expected. But it was just an awesome feeling to see just the love that Kansas City has for its sports teams. Right now everyone's pretty hyped for the Chiefs, and same thing for the Royals when they were good. But it's just amazing, man, to see that many people come into one area and then represent in a way that was so respectful to Kansas City and also respectful to the other fans from across the NFL. It just made it a really good, enjoyable time for me. And then, just also being able to just see the city, how it just lit up over this past weekend, man. It's just amazing. Just makes me think that, if we're fortunate enough to get an NBA team in here, that it's going to be the same type of vibe. And then we have the World Cup coming to Kansas City soon. Like Kansas City, like I said before, it's just a place to be, man, right now.
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
Oh, I did have fun. Took half the day. It was pretty nice. Enjoyable. Went with Quentin to echo a lot of stuff that Tommy and Quentin said. See a lot of different things happen. I mean, it was great to see different fans. I mean, all the fans from all the fan bases here in Kansas City. One point when I knew, like, oh, this is real was whenever it was like 30 minutes before the draft. I think it was after Quentin got back after getting some beers, so he was very happy. I turned around and looked, and I was like, oh my goodness, if something happens, if people start running, this is not going to be good for women and children and older people. It was just that packed. Yeah. But it was really good. I mean, it was great. I mean, the Tomahawk Chalk was awesome. 125,000 people. Every time a Raiders fan, a Broncos fan, a Chargers fan was on the screen, we booed. But Chiefs Kingdom really came together when we booed the Bengals fan. That was just a great tradition. Yeah. Yelling home the Chiefs at the end of the national anthem was great. I mean, there was great people all around. There were some annoying people wanting to blow smoke. in people's faces. I had to deal with that a couple times. But regardless, it's either here or there. That's going to happen in those events. But it was a really good time. And just see all those things happen, it was just great. Kansas City is a place to be. And I feel like, and this is my opinion, due to events like this, people are going to start moving to Kansas City. And we might basically be able to get the nod to finally have what Thomas says an NBA team. We see how the city came together, all the things happen along that. We got the new airport terminal. A lot of people already moving from the coast to the Kansas City area and around it. I think with events like this, it's going to bring a little bit more foot traffic and things like that as a whole. So I think with all the things that come to play at the end of the day, it's just going to make Kansas City even better place. And because of that, there were some other people from other teams that here as well. And also, last moment, I'll say that was great was whenever Mahomes and Kelsey ran on the field. Ran on the stadium and basically hyping us up. That was awesome. And it was also great as Quinn and I were driving home, we listened to radio and these people were complaining saying, this is how should it be? You know what? We have the draft in Kansas City. We're going to shove in your face. We're going to let Carr come and announce the pick. We're going to do the tomahawk chalk. All that stuff's going to happen. And on top of that, if Mahomes going to want to come out and do this stuff, I don't care. Your team should have won. You had chances and you didn't do it. So I don't want to hear it. We're going to shove it in your face as much as we want. It's in Kansas City, the place to be, the barbecue capital of the world.
Which that surprises me so much because it's so freaking hard to win the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? It's one of the hardest things to do in all sports is win the championship. So when you do win a championship, for someone to get upset because you're celebrating, that's just Haterville, man. Because at the end of the day, when other teams win, hey, go celebrate. You deserve it. It's kind of like, you know what? If there's a team out there and you're on the opposing side and they're running up the score, if you don't like it, do something about it. Stop them. You know what I'm saying? Just saying.
What's up, Scott? Well, I will say this. There was a lot of crap about Kelsey. A guy from Barstool Sports, I had to go after him a little bit on Twitter because he said he was an infectious fuck, or insufferable fuck is what he said. And that really irritated me because, I mean, honestly, he's the best tight end in football. He's loved everywhere. This guy's going to be like a superstar when he's out of football. He's going to have every acting gig he wants. He's going to probably have his own show. Mm-hmm. He's going to do whatever he has to do. So if you guys don't like him, you better start liking him because he's going to be in your face a lot more than you ever saw Brady.
When Kelsey retires, he's going to be on the NFL Network. He's going to be speaking on the sports show. So just get used to it.
Yep. It's probably going to be him and his brother together doing their own
show.
Probably.
That would not surprise me.
And they will take over the Mannings.
You never know. The Fox might pull them on as the Kelseys. The ESPN has the Mannings. The Fox might have the Kelseys. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. But they're going to have some bleeps in there because there's those guys. They're not. Well,
Eli Manning. Yeah. They're going to have to do some things in delay a little bit because what they learned from Eli Manning, as nice as he is, he goes a little crazy sometimes. So
yeah, he does.
But, the power of streaming and not being on live TV.
Yes, I love that. That's the best part. Well, I think it was an interesting draft. I think it was an A draft. A lot of people with the NFL gave it an A. I think only one guy, which he's always negative about us, he gave us a B+.
I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't give it an A. I have some reasons why, but we can get that later.
Okay. Well, I know there's players you wanted that we didn't take.
No, it's not that. It's not that at all.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with where the Chiefs are drafting too. It's hard to get an A when you're drafting 31st, just because of
exactly.
Well, you know what I'm saying. So like maybe if you look at where they were drafting, and then the players that they drafted, you might be able to give them an A. But I think I'm in line with giving them a B to a B+, just because I don't think that you can get an A if you're the 31st pick unless you do a whole bunch of trading up, which they weren't able to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you this: Veach tried 3 times on his own to trade up, and nobody even entertained it. And then,
the Cowboys did, but they told them who they wanted. And they're like, "Now, where we want that guy."
Well, Jerry was the one that initiated that, though. He wanted to trade back, and Veach was like, "Okay, I'll take I'll take that." And when Veach made him an offer, he refused it. So he basically took a late second round, third round pick in the first round because he refused Veach's offer, which I think was dumb on his part. But whatever. I mean, look, it is what it is. It's Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is going to Jerry Jones. It just is what it is. But to see the largest stage ever built for the draft, it's pretty awesome to see in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey had a blast. Mahomes had a blast. Everybody had fun. Tyreek Hill couldn't keep his nose out of it because he had to show up. He was at Arrowhead doing some kind of a flag football thing, and then had to
on Saturday
make his appearance. Yeah, make his appearance on Saturday. Oh yeah, Brad was down there. What's up, Brad? What's up, Philip? Brad was down there. Philip worked it. Brad said he's still tired.
I will say I was very hungry when I got home.
Yeah,
I had to make a quick stop. I had to take a stop at Quick Trip. The food was ridiculous. I mean,
I bet
there was one guy, and they were selling fried ribs, pork rinds, and the wings. And guess how much all those three things cost?
Like $25.
Question, don't answer. Tommy, Jake, guess how much that cost?
I'm gonna say $25, but
yeah, $25, about 25, and probably with taxes like $27.
Yeah.
And he had them stacked up, and he like, this is a holiday, I don't care. So,
Caleb and I got a nice burger at what was it called? Sauced.
I think it was, yeah.
That place is actually, everybody says that place is really good.
It was really hashtag not sponsored. It was pretty good. Nice double stacked burger with cheese for $9. I mean, that was pretty good. So it was a great experience. You guys just want to get into some of these draft picks. How do we want to do it? Do you want to talk about a couple today and then some more tomorrow, or do you try and run through all of them tonight?
We can run through the draft picks tonight and then run through the free agents tomorrow, or
so we can do a combination of both. We can split up.
Okay, well then let's just go with Felix Duque Uzama. I'm gonna try my best to get this.
You did a good job with that
pronunciation down because I respect this man, so I'm gonna try and get it right. So out of K-State, man, pick 31. First, before we talk about him as a player, can we just talk about how his life is like a storyline? I mean, it's a Disney film.
Yeah,
right? He grew up around Kansas City. Chiefs are his favorite team. Ends up going to the local school. Wins the Big 12 in his final year there, and then gets drafted to once again his favorite team. I mean, it's just what a Disney could have wrote his life, over the past few years.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. And I think they showed a picture of him standing there as a little kid at Arrowhead with his arms out like this, and then they showed a picture of him grown up in the same exact spot on the field with his arms out like this. If that's the same guy, it's on Twitter right now. I'd have to look and see if that's it, but I think it is. They didn't put a name to it. They just basically showed the pictures, but he looked like he was about 9 years old, and then shows him, as a Chief. But I think that's a good pick. I was expecting, I mean, I know what Veach wanted originally. He didn't get it, and kind of is what it is, but I'm happy he got him. Seems like a solid player. I think he's going to be – he could very easily be a starter.
Who do you think Veach was trying to get ahead of him?
He was going after a tight end.
Kincaid?
Yeah, he was going to
go after Kincaid or bust, it sounds like then.
Yeah,
he didn't go after anyone.
Yeah, he was going to go after Kincaid, and he tried. But it just wasn't in his favor. I mean, plus he's got his eyes set on a on a tight end that's coming into. It's going to be in the draft next year. Why can't I think of his name right now?
The guy from Georgia, Brock Bowers.
Yeah, Brock Bowers.
I mean, he's going to be a top 10 pick, so he's going to have to move to Nerve Cap.
He's going to have to. Well, he may. I mean, who knows? Everybody thought these tight ends were going to be top 10, and none of them went top 10. So. That was a weird draft. I don't know if you guys thought, but that was a weird ass draft.
I mean, it's the most trades that happen in a draft ever. So that makes it more difficult. I will say, when Caleb and I were at the draft and we were sitting there, and I think around 25, right when that wide receiver run ended, right around when it ended. So Caleb and I were looking at each other. I'm like, oh my God, who's left on the board? And we just had that like light bulb moment. Like, Felix is still on the board.
Yep.
So we were, we were kind of calling our shot there. I think it's a great pick. Brett Veach has come out and said that they had a 22 to about a 42 draft pick grade on him. So they got him exactly where they wanted to get him. He was a perfect fit for that. Look, the Chiefs have a lot of snaps to replace on their defensive line. As of right now, both Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap are still, not on this team. Obviously that can change, but as of right now, we have to work with the fact that neither of them are on this roster. It's about nine sacks and 80-ish pressures that they need to replace between those two. You know that Karlaftis is going to improve, so you've got that going for you. But with the addition of Charles Omenihu, you had to add somebody else, and he seems to be the perfect fit for this offense. He's sort of that Spags guy. He's really strong, really smart, young. That's a key point, right? Kansas City loves drafting young, athletic guys that they can mold. The fact that he didn't spend all 4 years at K-State really shows that there's no bad tendencies, or not even necessarily bad, but just tendencies that he was taught at K-State that maybe don't work in the NFL. So he's still sort of like that soft clay, right? They can still work with him.
Yep.
We know last year the dramatic improvement in the defensive line because of the new coaching staff. So I think this is a very high ceiling, pretty decent floor in terms of a pick. So if you're a Chiefs fan, I don't understand how you could be upset by this pick. If you were if you were looking at the board at the time,
it was fantastic.
There wasn't a ton of other players that I saw, and I was like, man, you should have gone after X player. I really don't think there were a ton of other guys that there was an argument to make that they should have gone after this guy. Getting him at 31, right? You've got that 5th-year option, which is so important.
He's only 21
just all around, it's just all
right?
good for me. Nobody could give me a thing as like, but what about this? There's really not a lot of that.
I think he's only 21 years old too, which
I think you're right.
I think another reason why it's a good selection is because I think the kid's still going to grow. I think he can put on another 15 to 20 pounds in the NFL just because, he's 21 years old.
Yeah.
He's got a lot still to go. Also, to his development, too, I think kind of what you were hitting at, Q, is that you can get him in since we have a good D-line coach now, get him in with a good coaching. And now get him in with some guys like, Frank Clark comes back. I don't think they'll bring both him and Dunlap back. I think they're going to bring either or. But either way, they're going to put somebody in there that's going to show him some tricks of the trade, and that's going to make him better. And he's hungry too. And if you look at him, Brad alluded to this, and then we were talking about this before we got on air. He's to me, he's Tamba Ali Jr. Man, that's what he is. The kid is very explosive off of the blocks, man. He can get upfield real quick. Sometimes he does take himself out of run plays, but that's just, again, the more you play, the better you'll get at that. Just recognizing, and that's why I like Will McDonald at that position, because he really can analyze between pass and run quickly. But if you talk about the pure just athleticism and then the motor, I'm gonna go with FAU all day because I think he's got a better motor than Will McDonald. And right now,
and that's what I was going to say too. I think he's a little more athletic than as much as I love Tamba. I think he's a little more athletic than Tamba was. That was the only thing that was lacking a little bit with Tamba's career was his athleticism. He wasn't
the bend. He didn't have the bend.
He didn't have the bend, but Tamba was still Tamba.
Yeah. Well, that's what made Tamba great, man. Like I can go back and I remember because didn't he get when he had a Penn State?
Yeah, Penn State.
Yes.
Yep. Happy Valley.
So I remember when he came out of Penn State, and that was the biggest thing about him. They said the best thing about Tamba Ali is motor. And you watch him on the first 2, 3, 4 years of his career, he wasn't beaten because he had great technique. He learned that as he, came along the league. He got to having great technique. He beat you the first 3 years of his of being in the league because he just outworked you, man. Like you would stop, he would keep going. It didn't matter. He would play to the whistle, and that's what you're looking for right now. These guys coming out of the draft. You're looking for guys, especially on defense, going to play to the whistle, and that's what's going to make them successful right off the bat.
And you talk about his moves, his hand moves. That's something you can teach, right? That's sort of what I was getting at with my whole moldable clay point. Is that you can work with that. You can't teach size or speed, but you can teach some of these techniques and give him some time. And I think that we'll see that. We saw this with Karlaftis, right? Towards the end, at first, it was him just using his power, his raw power and his athleticism. But by the end of the year, you saw some of these moves coming in, these swim moves, and using some of the things that the coaching staff was using. So, yeah, I do think that we'll see a similar arc. I think that's sort of the expectation. I don't think it's fair to tell him that, we need to have, you need 6 sacks, you need 8 sacks. I don't want to do that on a defensive lineman. I just think that, each year is different. So, and history will show you that first-round picks, unless you're picked in the top 5, top 10, you don't have a 6-sack season, generally speaking. Karlaftis is an outlier. But
he had a great teacher.
He did. And I do think that we should be excited about the amount of pressures that he should get. You know, the defense, Spags defense is also rotational heavy, right? So, you know, we don't just put one defensive lineman out there all game unless your name is Chris Jones. But even then, Chris Jones rotates quite a bit too, especially in the third quarter, right, when he's kind of gassed. So I think everybody should be excited about this pick.
Yeah. Brad says Tamba had martial arts moves. His swim moves. Well, okay, I understand that, Brad, but it took him a while to get to that point. And honestly, if you go back, Derek Thomas started that whole martial arts thing with really edge rushers. Because that's what he did. He would watch Bruce Lee constantly. I got so freaking sick of Bruce Lee, I couldn't stand it anymore. But it was like every time we walked into this house, chink, Bruce Lee was on the damn TV, no matter what. But he was the one that started it. It took Tom a little time to get those techniques down, but he got them. He needed them because of his lack of athleticism when it came to that position. Derek was very bendy. He could twist his body in positions that kind of were freaky to some degree. And Tama didn't do that, but he just had a motor. He reminds me of, honestly, I tell you, Karlaftis plays similar to Tamba because he doesn't stop. He doesn't slow down. And if he does get beat a little bit, he comes back. I mean, he will go until somebody's pulling him off. And that's, you know, Karlaftis is now, I think he learned his technique a little faster than Tama did, but a lot faster, actually.
And the one thing at Tama is a teacher. He's more of a, basically, you say, with figuring out the different pass rusher moves, kind of like a DT to karate. I mean, sometimes you got to find what works. And what we see, he's passed those on to Karlaftis. Sorry, he passed them on to Karlaftis. And who's to say that Karlaftis is not going to pass on to FAU, Felix? Or we're going to see they're all going to teach each other. And if Frank Clark comes back, that's more knowledge. So, I mean, it's just beneficial, everyone that's involved. And plus, I think Karlaftis has been hanging out with Ali this offseason. They've been doing jiu-jitsu or something together, too.
Yeah, they have.
So, I mean, who knows what he's been able to pick up this offseason, the different things he's done. So, this move as a whole, I mean, really solidified one of the important needs that the Chiefs needed, position they needed, was pass rush. And because of that, what we see now is I'm not really worried when it goes to next year about guys getting the quarterback. I think they have a chance to do a lot, really, overall. I'm not scared one bit whatsoever like I was last year this time.
I don't know, Philip.
I'll say this too.
I'm not going to say that yet because that's going to be a hard thing to break. But
what's the number on that?
What is
Derek had 10, I think, his first season.
10?
If I'm not mistaken. I believe so.
That's a tough task with the way we rotate.
His season was 10.
Maybe. He's probably going to play a lot of special teams.
And he's still got the single game sack record, too, doesn't he?
Yeah, 7. Which should have been 8. Sorry.
8, yeah. Was it Steve Largent he had it? Or who was it?
No, it was
or Craig or so.
Craig.
Yeah.
It was Dave Craig. He should have had his ass. Man, he was so mad when he didn't get that. I mean, he was mad. And when he came over to the sidelines, he was pissed. And I'm like, dude, you got 7 sacks. I want 8. I want freaking 8. And I mean, he should have had it. He really should have.
People, I get an argument with people all the time. I used to anyway, about between him, LT, and DT. I told him, I said, LT was a better overall linebacker. I said, Derek Thomas was better at pass rush. And I keep telling people that all day. It's like, watch the film, dude. I said, Derek Thomas would beat people off the snap with ease. I said, like, he just was at a different level. Like, I keep telling people, his first step, I've never seen a player with a better first step in my life. Nowhere. I've never seen it before. Dude would literally be in the backfield in 2 steps. And you can see, even in today's offensive linemen, and they're cheating, they're halfway in the backfield, they're taking off before the snap. He would still beat them more than half the time.
Derek got held on that last sack, and they didn't call it. And he was pissed because he got held. And that's what made him, I think, madder than anything is that he was just pissed that he got held and they didn't call it because he should have had that sack. He did get held.
How about the offensive coordinator not scheming up some help on that side for him for the tackle?
Man. He had to. He didn't have no damn choice. I mean, that dude was in the backfield more than the quarterback was. But the dude was insane. Doug says he said, was it me or did the Eagles have like 1 billion picks in the draft and they took every Georgia player available? It seemed like they
pretty
did.
much.
Hey, if you're building a team, just drafting every Georgia player over the last couple years has been a good thing. So
yeah.
Where did they get the picks from? Like, who did they trade?
They traded. I mean, they've made a bunch of trades. They've been a very transactional team. So they've been a lot like Kansas City, where they've just been trading up, trading down. They'll trade some players. That's how they ended up with 2 first-round picks. So I mean, it's a lot of trades that they've done. I will say this about the Tamba conversation. We do need some context later in his career. Tamba also had Justin Houston on the sideline or on the other side. So, there is some context too involved in that, just because, having that other guy on the other side forces you to double team less. It's why, I mean, think back to Thomas, right? He had Smith on the other side too. Mm-hmm. So it makes it better when you have exponentially better when you have 2 guys on the line, and I think that's going to benefit Karlaftis as well.
That's why it benefited Chris Jones this year, because you had solid edge rushers this year. Chris Jones probably had the best year of his career because they still double teaming, but they couldn't triple teaming because you got edge rushers now coming from either side. So you gotta pick and choose where you're gonna give your help at. And I think that's what's gonna go. I think that momentum's only gonna roll into this year because now you have Felix is going to be on one side, Karlaftis, right? And then now you got some new bodies in the middle to rotate along with Jones, which we'll get to the other kid later, the 300-pounder. I think is a really good pickup. Reminds me a lot of Colin Saunders, but also to your defensive back. So what saved the defense is pass rush, and what will save them when the pass rush doesn't get home is defensive backs. And I think they got stronger in both of those this offseason.
See what Brad said? He said you hear the joke that the Eagles' favorite new band is Georgia Line.
Oh,
jeez.
Okay,
and here's the thing. You have, let me just say this. You have it where there's the Georgia defense, and you have the Bama offense. Wide receiver you and defensive you. That's what I mean,
it's true, especially defensive line. Defensive line you.
Exactly.
It's a good school to go get talent from, right? I mean, they run that pro-style defense. I mean, there's a quick transition. So
here's the thing. Like we've been talking about, the one thing that Brad just said, I think he's new to this, but we've been talking about this forever, about Joe Cullen. And if you don't have the coaching staff to coach those guys up quickly, then it may not do you any good this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not do you any good next year for that matter. I mean, you don't really know how good a draft is for the first 2 years anyway, regardless.
I don't think it's going to matter for the Eagles anyway, because the NFC – all they got to do is beat the 49ers, and which is going to be hard to do if the 49ers get anything from the quarterback position. The 49ers is going to be hard to beat, but it's a 2-man race in the NFC. There's nothing else over there. Think about it. I mean, who's really going to give them a run for their money in the NFC besides the 49ers?
Who knows?
Nobody.
Man. I mean, honestly, the 49ers are probably going to be a scary football team this year.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
that's what I'm saying. If they get anything from their quarterback, they will be good, because I'm telling you, the 49er defense matches up really well with the Eagles offense. It's just that they had to stay on the field the whole time because
they got gassed.
49ers offense couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And that's the sad thing about it, is that I think that it could have been a rematch of 54 if they had a quarterback. So, and here's another thing too. People have to understand, it looks really good on paper what they're assembling. And it's not saying that it's not going to be great, because they had a pretty damn good defense before they added all these Georgia players. But just because they get that many players stacked up doesn't mean that it's all going to land in the right place. Like, it's not always going to mesh. If it does mesh, it's going to be a perfect scenario. Like, you bring in, the guy, the D tackle that slid, you bring him in, and does he come in? Is he effective? Does he fit their scheme? Because you have great players on different teams in the league right now, and we don't know that they're great or really good because they're not in the right scheme. So it just kind of depends on how they fit into the mix. Chemistry has a lot to do with everything that you do on offense and defense. So just because you draft good players does not mean that your chemistry is going to be great.
Yeah. I'd like to point out that we are half an hour into the show, and we
better move on.
We've gone over one player, so we're not making it through all the players tonight.
Yeah, probably not.
Go Royals!
I want to talk about. Let's move on to the round 2 pick. This was kind of surprising, not the position, but just the player itself. Rashee Rice, wide receiver. I was this when it came across, like I said, as a wide receiver. I wasn't surprised. SMU. I mean, I'm happy about the pick, right? This was one of your needs. The actual player itself, it'll be interesting to see. I don't think it's fair to have really any expectations for him moving forward in terms of production. I think he could be the guy that plays special teams, the next punt returner / kick returner. I think that could be something you might see him more on the special teams than an actual on the wide receiver offense. But he's a guy with a lot of upside, right? He has the routes that he does run, he's very crisp there. He has a limited route tree, but the stuff that he does run, he's very good, fully capable of expanding that route tree, in my opinion. His problem has been drops. He's had a couple of years with 10 drops, and there's nothing more frustrating as a quarterback or as a fan when a guy's wide open and the dude just has, butterfingers, right? The ball just, for no reason, just falls right through his hands. It's so frustrating, and it stands out, especially when you look back, MVS this year, right? There was a couple of times where, man, he could have scored some 50-yard bombs, and the ball just slid right through his hands. So, that could be frustrating. And if you're a quarterback and you know that, hey, between guy A and guy B, one of them has a tendency to drop the ball, I'm not going to go to him, right? So that might impact your trust factor there. Obviously, the transition into a pro-style offense is going to be difficult, not just because it's a pro-style offense, but the Andy Reid offense, right? This talks about all the time, about how difficult it is to move into a Kansas City / Andy Reid offense, because you don't just learn the X spot, you learn the Y and the slot, right? So there's a lot to take in. But, from the stuff that we have heard and the stuff that you see on the field in terms of his athleticism, it's there, and there's a ton of upside with this pick.
Okay, so here's the thing with him. He said KC Sports Network has Rice as a T. Higgins like a comp. I don't see T. Higgins. I see him better than T. Higgins.
Yeah, I feel like, and this, I don't mean to interrupt you, JP, but I feel like he's going to be better than what Sky Moore did his rookie year. Yeah. That's what I feel with Rice. I mean, yeah, we have issues with the drops, but I think he'll be able to figure that out. And just the way he's route running, his ability to do all the different things. He's 6'4". I think he's 6'2" or 6'4", to remind you guys. I think he could very well put very close to 1,000-yard season. I think he's going to be very, very impactful, and is going to be very, very inclusive in what we see the offensive game plan moving forward. Possibly like a Brandon Ayuk, but I think he could. I don't know. They may still put him in kind of the situation when he'd be getting the ball in the backfield and things like that. But I can see him really taking over and dominating at certain points, and the Chiefs are going to probably really rely on him.
Well, here's the thing.
Taking Juju's spot, man. If you look at what he does in school right now, right, he can go down the field. But if you look at like red zone and like the flats and stuff, like the guy was always open. And what I mean by that is he didn't have to have a lot of separation. He was able to space himself from the defender because he's really good with his hands too. That's one thing that I was looking at him and I was watching him and I was like, man, that guy pushes off like Jamar Chase. He's always pushing off at the bottom half of the defender, which is a good trait. Like, I hate it because it's Jamar Chase. I'm like, damn, but if Jamar Chase was on
Jamar Chase will push you off by the face mask too and get away with it.
Pretty much.
But here's the thing. Mahomes worked out with 11 different wide receivers?
Yeah, something like that.
And he picked him. So that's
a lot of the guys that he worked out with, win the first round. So
yeah,
that was
but he actually handpicked him. I mean, he wanted him.
Yeah, they had a Brett Veach talked about this, right? That they had a conversation about, which guy would you want to go with, and he did. So he does have a rapport with Rice. This is why, man, that Pat camp is so valuable in terms of guys that are, not on the team yet, but also guys that are already on the team.
By the way,
we will never be able to truly know how important this camp is.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing. Everybody, and I got to get this out of the way real quick because it pissed me off. There were so many Chiefs fans, I guess that's what you want to call them, bitching about this Rice pick. And then saying, oh, well, so what? Mahomes picked him. He also picked CEH. I'm going to clear this up really quick. He didn't freaking work out with CEH. He saw a great running back, a blocker and a running back coming out of that college, knew his O-line was shaky and knew they were going to revamp. That's why he wanted him in there. He thought maybe he'd be able to transition, but he didn't. He saw a great blocker and a running back, and he knew he needed it. Okay, that is just basically how it played out. You can't, and for everybody that's saying he was a bust, he wasn't a bust. He didn't work in our system, and he had some injury issues. Nobody's going to predict somebody's injury issues. So all you people out there that are pissed because your mock draft didn't work out for you, I don't know what to tell you because you ain't paying none of these motherfuckers, and you sure as hell ain't Pat Mahomes picking them. So get off your bandwagon because it didn't work out for you. So what? But you can't blame Pat because of CEH's issues. He's gone. We told you he's going to be gone. We knew this a long time ago, and it is what it is. But and look who came back. Exactly who he said was coming back. Jerick McKinnon. So everybody's got to get off this shit. Man, we've been to 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, and you can't please these Chiefs fans. I can't get over some of the crap that's been posted on Twitter about Mahomes handpicking. He should stick to being a quarterback instead of being a GM and all this other crap. And, it's just kind of tiring after a while. Damn, man. I mean, he's the best in the league, probably the best to ever play this game. Better than Brady. He's already broke a lot of Brady's records and broke records that Brady didn't even reach in his entire career. And they're complaining. If he picked him, he worked out with him. So what? It worked out. I'm okay with it. Yeah, Brad did go to war on Twitter, and then I had to jump in because it was frustrating the shit out of me. I mean, it was just making me mad. But anyway, I think he's a good pick. I think he's got a lot of upside. I do think he's going to be – I think they do plan on putting him in. If he can grasp everything quickly, they're going to have him playing probably
I think they're going to have a package for him.
They're going to have a package for him by week 3.
I think Reed already designed the package for him because he needs to replace the production of Juju Smith-Schuster. You have to. You cannot expect – I mean, you can expect, Tony – and Sky Moore to take, make some marginal gains, but still they would both have to have pretty substantial amount of gain to be able to replace that. I don't think that's fair in a sense to put that all on them because for one, Tony's injury prone. Sky Moore is his second year in the league. I do think he's going to jump, but I think also too, instead of replacing that with 2 people, you do it with 3. That way you get 3 of your most newest receivers involved, right? And you get them experience going into the playoffs. It's very important that you get them going early because it's all about confidence in this league. If you don't have confidence, just like you said, if Mahomes throws you the ball and you're dropping the ball, he ain't going back to you. The problem with that is that if you don't have multiple targets that you can trust, then defenses start to scheme around the people you do trust and makes it more difficult to be explosive on offense.
Hey, you're right. And here, look, this is a great comparison between Rice and Adams, and here's why. Because Adams came into the league having drops. Yeah. Adams came into the league not being the greatest his first year or so. And look where he's at. Basically the best wide receiver in football when he got, so arguably the best. Maybe not the most dangerous, but damn good. Yeah. And I think they've got Tony slotted as the number 1 wide receiver right now.
Yeah.
He is slotted.
It makes it easier to take risk at wide receiver when you have Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Right? Because Travis Kelce is the number 1 wide receiver on this team. Everybody in Kansas City and and around the league, right? We know Travis Kelce is the number 1 wide receiver. So you can take guys like this. I mean, if he gets 300 yards on this team, I think you should be happy about that, right? Kansas City is going to slowly work in. When you draft at 31, and you're especially when you're taking other positions at 31/32, it makes it more difficult to really hit on some of these guys and to get, you're not going to get like Jamar Chases or Justin Jeffersons of the world. You're realistically not going to get these, I'm going to get 1,000 yards my rookie season, especially when you already have guys in the league that they just have more experience than you. It's hard for a rookie to get implemented into this offense early. I mean, even with Sky Moore, look how long it took him to really get into the offense. And even still, he had pretty limited snaps. So I would just make sure you don't have a ton of expectations for him. I do think he is more of a project, but he has a lot of potential. There's a lot of upside here. And that's what you need to get when you're drafting where you are. I
agree. And to answer Brad, yes, I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to go with 7 wide receivers and not a fullback. That's what I think they'll do. The only way this could change is if they bring in another running back, which I don't think they will. They've already got they're solidified with who they need in the backfield. So I do think that's what's going to happen. I think Chris agreed with me on that. He said, yes, at Brad Henson. Yeah, I think so. I agree. Tony, I think, is going to be number one. You're going to have Ross out there. Justin Ross is, I think people may have forgotten about him, but Ross is going to be there. Sky Moore, I think, is going to make leaps and bounds. He's going to be a totally different player this year. He did well when he was in the offensive side of the ball anyway, especially, from about week 8 on. He did really well. He got more acclimated. Yeah, he had some issues with, returning a ball that he's never done a day in his life. But, I mean, who wouldn't? That's not an easy thing to do. People can sit there on TV all day long and go, oh, my God, I can't believe you dropped that. Go out there and try it 4 times. I bet you dropped 3. So, it's that simple. That shit ain't easy. So, and when
everything slows down in year 2. Everything slows down in year 2.
It does. Your body, you're acclimated. It's like you go from college to the NFL and the speed is just insanely different. But then after that first year in the NFL and you get your reps and you learn the timing, everything is back to like it was in college. It's like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. And Sky Moore is a very intelligent player. So, and look, and he did. You're right, Brad. He made up for it in the AFC Championship game, which he did. So, and actually, he made up for it in the playoffs because he didn't drop it.
One thing I like about these receivers we got, like Sky Moore, Rice, Tony, these guys are great after they catch the ball. Like, they are very hard to tackle. And I think that's going to be something to watch and see how they get acclimated into the offense this year. Because one of the big, I guess, positives about Rice is that, they say, hey, he's a running back after he catches the ball. That's pretty good. You really want that because broken tackles in the league, with the way that a lot of the practices are now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the last 3-4 years, tackling has been down in the league. Like, you don't have a lot of great tackling teams. So if you've got guys that can break tackles and make runs after the catch, that's only going to make your offense that much better.
He reminds me, and Brad actually said this too, he does have a little bit of Deebo Samueling, when you think about it, because he can come out of the backfield with force. And I think we're going to see that with him. And I guarantee you, he's going to be the guy that everybody goes, wow, he just did that out of the backfield. I think that's what we're,
you got 3 guys now, right?
Well, yes, he's going
to. You got
to.
3 guys that can do that. You got
McKinnon, number 1 is the best.
Yeah, but you got Rice, he can do it. You got Tony, and then you got Sky Moore.
Yeah,
they can all run that kind of jet sweep. That just think how versatile it makes your offense, and I think that's the scary part that I think a lot of people that are Chiefs fans aren't seeing. It's not always about how good of a wide receiver they are. It's really about how versatile are they, because you can fit them in so many different positions within the offense, and that makes it hard to defend when you got guys coming out the backfield, line up as fullbacks, but they're really running backs or wide receivers. It makes it impossible for a linebacker or defensive end to try to go guard him because it's a mismatch. And that's what Andy Reid looks for. He's looking for mismatches all day long.
I agree. Philip said that leaves a battle for wide receiver 7, Richie, James, John Ross, and what's his name, Remigio?
Remigio, I think.
Remigio.
Practice squad.
Yeah,
they'll just be guys on the practice squad. They ain't gonna go nowhere though.
Go ahead, Quentin.
I would just say that Richie James is probably wide receiver 4 in this offense. That's just on me, but we can talk about that a little later when we deep dive specifically into the wide receiver room. I want to move on to the offensive tackle that we took because he is interesting. I think that here's why. 1, Kansas City continues to draft Oklahoma guys, right? When he started his college career at Tennessee for a couple of years and then moved to Oklahoma. So he has experience with 2 of the better offensive line developing schools in the country. This is just one of those, sort of like Georgia and the defensive line. Oklahoma just continues to move out quality offensive line, specifically tackles too. But all across the offensive line, Oklahoma continues to they're like a machine. They just continue to move them out. It's crazy. I think it's a great I think it's a great pick. He has played both at right and left tackle, so there is that sort of flexibility there. We have a pretty good idea of where Kansas City is going to play him. It seems like he's going to play him at right tackle, but the fact that there's some versatility there.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that there's a potential he can play at guard. He's got a really good anchor, which is good against some of those power rushes. So I also think that he can play guard if, for some crazy reason, Kansas City needs him to play the guard position. I do think that there is a possibility that he can play guard in the NFL as well. So there is that sort of flexibility there. And if you're just looking at the Chiefs, Brett Veach and Andy Reid in general, they love guys that can play at different positions across the offensive line. That has been a staple of guys that they have drafted.
Yep.
My biggest problem with him is that, and I don't know why he does it. I don't know if it's a conditioning thing. I don't know if it's him being impatient or if he just gets lazy. It seems like that later in the games, he sort of loses some of his technique. And maybe it's a focus issue, towards the end of the game, he just doesn't focus as much. And there are some guys that are able to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Without me, telling you exactly why this happens, it's hard for me to give a specific reason. I do think that that's a problem that, like, if it's a conditioning or a focus thing, I think that's something that can be fixed at the next level. But I do think it's something that we need to pay attention to. Third quarter, fourth quarter, how has he continued to go at the level that he has? But look, it was a need. And in the first 3 rounds, you solved all 3 of your needs in the draft.
Absolutely.
Everybody going into the draft was like, Kansas City needs a tackle, we need a defensive end, and we need a wide receiver. And bang, 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 you knocked all 3 of them out. It's a good pick.
I agree.
It'll be the biggest battle on the offensive line, that right tackle spot, which is good to have competition. Veach always talks about that. But, you look at our line right now, it's pretty much solidified besides that right tackle position. And, I think a lot of what's going to happen in training camp is going to decide on how aggressive we are passing and running right off the bat, because what you don't want to do, is put Mahomes in a bad situation if these tackles aren't as up to speed as they need to be. Early in the season, you want to run the ball more because they're probably one of the biggest offensive lines out there. But we'll see, because I think that I still want to see what the Kennard guy can do, because the guy's is huge. I just don't understand how you can be that big and that athletic and not play.
Well, they're pretty high on Prince right now, and that's the big thing too. They're really high on Prince, and I think, man, I'm high on Prince. I was high on Prince last year when he stepped in for Wiley. He did a hell of a job. He didn't let anybody near Mahomes. In fact, I think he had a 0 pressure rate. I mean, 0. That's not normal. And he had a 0 pressure rate. He's fast. He's agile. I love the way the guy plays. What do you think, Caleb?
I agree with you as well. I think we're going to see what Wanya. He's going to be a huge anchor, regardless where you put him in on the offensive line. You can put him at the right guard, the right tackle. I mean, you can move him all different areas. Was he the one teammates with Trey Smith, or is that the undrafted guy we just got?
No, that's
teammates with Trey Smith. So that's going to be important because you can put them next together. There's chemistry. All that is there, and all that is available. I mean, when you look at this, Veach has not gone out the typical number 1 offensive lineman. He's found guys who have been very serviceable, and I believe for years to come, the Chiefs can continue to take offensive linemen from places like Oklahoma because they fit the Chiefs' style and know how to block with a mobile quarterback. Oklahoma for many years have had spread-like offense where quarterbacks running around, kind of very similar to what we see the Chiefs do, and that's important because when you have that come into play and you have these guys blocking, they know what to expect whenever you have Mahomes running around.
Yeah.
And that's going to be very beneficial down the line when it comes to a situation where Mahomes just scramble on like a 3rd and 8, and he picks up the first down because the offensive linemen continue to block and continue to do what they're supposed to do. So I think it was a great move, and I think it's going to help solve another one of those huge issues that Chiefs have.
Yeah, that's a good point, Caleb. The fact that athleticism that comes from tackles, it's not just about being able to block the guy in front of you or to move around, to pull when it comes to, pull blockers when it comes to tackles and guards, but also being able to get in front of a guy, right? We saw Jason Kelce is very good at this, right? We saw this in the Super Bowl, and if you watched any other Eagles games, his ability to get to the next level, to just almost run in front of Hurts, that's a real big ability. And that's a good point that you brought up. That's athleticism, matters there too. I just think that, if you look at the if you look at the depth chart now, I bet Lucas Niang is the starting right guard or right tackle heading into camp. And I bet that when the first team reps come out, I bet it's Lucas Niang. Kansas City's still very high on Lucas Niang, but there's going to be a true battle at the right tackle position.
Absolutely.
So while, Lucas Niang's going to get sort of the benefit of tenure, right? He's just been there longer, so he's going to get the first team reps. This is going to be probably the most impactful camp battle of all of training camp and heading into the regular season is the right tackle position, right? I mean, you lost your guy that you've had for a little bit, the guy that's been on your team for a while, and there really isn't any other replacement. Kansas City has talked about that too. They know, and they've talked about that they're high on Niang, but it's just you draft somebody in the 3rd round at a position of need, there's going to be a battle, and that's exciting.
Well, I tell you what, I know that Niang he's had his injury issues. We know that. Didn't he take off a year for COVID as well?
Yeah, he did.
He took the year off for COVID.
He was hurt in college too.
He was hurt in college a lot.
I think that
hurt in the NFL a lot.
If he didn't take the year off from COVID, I think there's a good chance that he still takes the year off because he had, I believe it was a back injury. And when you're an offensive lineman and your game is leverage, right? Back injuries will look at Mitchell Schwartz, right? I mean, he went from the best right tackle in the NFL to a lower back injury, never played another snap because leverage is so important. Who can get low, who can get the most punch, and a lot of that comes from your lower back. So I don't know if Niang even plays if COVID wasn't there. I still think there's a good chance we still haven't really seen him, on the field. That's just the way that injury was, and it sucks, right? When you see a guy that you really think can be your franchise position player, and we still haven't really seen the full potential of Niang. I know we've seen him on the field for about 9 games, but injuries, man, that you can't make the club from the tub, man.
And here's the thing with those, look, in those positions, when you have multiple injuries, it's usually a sign that, this may not be you can't play every down. You can't play every snap because you don't know when that's going to happen again. And I think that's what Veach is looking at right now. And I think that's what Andy's looking at. And I think that's why they're kind of high on Prince right now because they saw what he did. He came in and played with a vengeance. The guy came in with 0 pressures. I mean, how do you come in with a guy? How do you come into a game in the NFL that you've never really played and have 0 pressures? It's virtually impossible.
Obviously, doing something right.
Where did he come from?
Was it BYU?
Yeah, I think it was. Wasn't it BYU?
I think.
Yeah, I want to say it was BYU.
Sure, I could be
They
wrong.
both came from BYU because that's where Niang's from BYU, but the guy you're talking about, Prince, he's from BYU as well.
I think so.
I think he is. I could be wrong, and we can look it up too.
We can look real quick. But
Google search.
I'm pretty sure he was either that or Utah, one of the two. I can't remember.
Look, the best.
Oh, he came from Auburn.
Auburn.
Okay.
Oh,
there you go.
If we talk about this with the defensive lines, the same is pretty true for the offensive lines, except offensive lines don't rotate. But, the offensive line is if your backups could be a starter somewhere else, you're doing really good. And I do think that heading into the regular season, you could make the argument that whoever doesn't win the guard/tackle job could be a starter on other teams.
Absolutely.
I think Kansas City is going to have another, no matter who wins that tackle spot, I think that Kansas City is going to have one of the better offensive lines in the NFL again. And we're going to have.
They were top 3 this year. So,
yeah. So no matter, if it comes down to having all-star wide receivers and a mediocre offensive line or a great offensive line and mediocre wide receivers, I'm going to give Patrick Mahomes some time. That's what I'm going to do.
That's right.
And I think that's what Kansas City, as long as Patrick Mahomes is in his prime, I think that's the goal, is to just make sure that he has time. And if we can just get, some talent around him, especially as long as Travis Kelce's still here, that seems to be the way Kansas City is going. And so far it's worked. So in Veach, we trust.
Exactly.
And, honestly, I mean, with Mahomes and the way he plays, you don't have to have, everybody on the offensive line has to be number 1 because, honestly, he avoided a lot of sacks simply because of his athleticism. and the way he runs, and his he's very elusive. He makes eye movements, he makes hand gestures, he does a lot of different things that are throws off defenders, and it kind of helps. So, I mean, I'm really not.
Has gotten a lot better.
Absolutely, and I'm not so concerned with him more than I am. I'm not really concerned with anything right now, especially after this draft. But I think the only thing that I would want right now, and I know they've been talking about, is bringing back Frank Clark. I would love to see Frank Clark back because there's no better mentor. You know, if they want to bring back Dunlap, hey, bring him back. You get them both back on a cheap deal, bring them both back. Yeah, because there's nothing better than having those mentors. I mean,
the longer they're on the free agency market, then the cheaper that they're going to get.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody thought McKinnon was going to go to Cleveland because that's where, what's his face was rallying for him out there, Thornhill. But he knew why would you go to Cleveland for an extra $500,000 when you're going to get that in the playoffs? And then if you win a Super Bowl again, which there's a 99.9% chance you're going to, there's another $1 in your pocket.
I love the optimism.
Hey, man, dude, we're still right now. Before the draft, and before we even signed McKinnon back, we were still the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Well, I don't know how I feel about that necessarily because the Super Bowl favorite before the season has started hasn't won the Super Bowl in like 15 years.
They're going to say it's the Eagles.
Who was last year? Was it the Eagles last year?
The Bills were the favorite.
Bills were the favorite, and they sucked.
So,
but we were like second. I think we were second in the AFC, and then of course the Eagles in San Francisco. But
has there been a year that the Super Bowl winners were not the favorite going into the next season?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah, happens all the time.
So I can see that being a pretty common. Like, hey, they just won it; they're the favorite next year. So.
Nobody ever thought in a million years Fluco would make it to a freaking Super Bowl, but he did.
Made it to 2, didn't he? Didn't they win 2?
No,
he won 1.
He's got 1.
Okay,
yeah, that's why it's a fluke.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right, because they had what was the guy's name? What was the guy's name on the first one? They had probably the greatest defense of all time.
Yeah,
that was Trent Dilfer, the 84-yard guy. Go 84 yards in the Super Bowl and I win. Who the hell could ever say that? That man's got a ring on his finger and 2 for 84 yards. And then duck captain. Oh shit, they're coming. That's all he did. That was
they had the defense and the offensive line.
That defense was nasty, bro.
It was.
Nasty.
Does anyone though in the chat have any questions before we end this one, just about the draft in general, or questions about the Chiefs?
Yeah, so Duggan's has one that he asked a while ago, and I just want to get to it. So he just asked about special teams, and do you think that they'll get better because of the free agents in the draft? I mean, I could see specifically the punt return game getting better no matter who they put back there, right? If they put Sky Moore back there, look, he's got more time to work it out. Before the season, he had never had any experience in college or obviously in the NFL returning punts. So if he's the guy they put back there, more experience is always going to help you out. If they end up putting a Rashid back there, and he does have a little bit of experience, not a ton, but he does have a little bit. So if that's the guy they end up putting back there, I think that is going to help the special teams. Plus, Kansas City didn't lose. Was it 2 years ago now? Kansas City lost damn near every single one of their special teams players.
And last year they lost Lamons, which was the best blocker on special teams.
So they had to completely rebuild their entire special teams coverage units in one offseason. That's why we saw a ton of struggles early on. Was simply they had a bunch of new guys playing on special teams. New gunners, new blockers, all of it. So I think it'll be better just because there's more time. And a lot of these things, it simply is time and reps. And there's only so many reps you can get during this off season and during the week. So, yes, I think special teams will be better.
Yeah,
okay. I agree with you as well. It's going to take time to build a unit. We finally got our core group of guys. They're probably not going to hold these guys as long. I think there's going to be some rotation over time when we look at these different players. So I agree with what you have to say there for you.
And Caleb, you and I had talked about there was 2 specific players that we always thought needed more snaps.
Watson, Daniel.
Dorn, Daniel, and Watson. And Pringle. And both of those guys were pretty much career special teamers for us. Dorn Daniel was great on special teams.
Yeah.
And, he's gone. Then you lose Pringle. Then you lose Lamons last year over and Watt. Yeah. So it's like, Lamons does something stupid and gets booted. So it's kind of one of those things that, last year just was kind of a fluke for us. I think Dave Tobe is great.
Dave Tobe,
great.
Andy Reid has consistently said that Dave Tobe gets to choose the last 2 or 3 guys on the roster because they're special teams players. Mm-hmm. And, years ago, the Chiefs were so worried that Dave Tobe was going to get hired as a coach somewhere else that they gave him a promotion. Yeah. So
but he turned him down anyway. He doesn't want to be a head coach. He refused to do it.
Yeah, it's just interesting that I do think that with time it'll develop. Look, the Chiefs offense or the Chiefs special team was not nearly as bad as the Packers were a couple years ago in the playoffs. I think that some of it was a little overblown. It's just hard to go past all those fumbles that happen, right? It's hard to look past some of those. I don't think that that's what we're going to see because you're just going to have more reps. And Sky Moore has more confidence. He talked about that after his big punt return, right? That it was just one of those things where, when you're able to do it once, you can do it. When you fail a whole bunch in a row, I'm sure everybody has something, whether it's sports or just life in general, right? Mm-hmm. When you make a big mess over and over again, and they're finally able to get it right, you can take a big sigh of relief because you can do it. And Sky Moore has that now.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Sure. Absolutely. And you still have Tony. And I think people forget that we still have Tony.
God, Tony cannot return punts, man.
Man, he's good.
I don't care. The dude is
he is not injury prone. Man. No, he's not. He had soft injury tissues, and those did he have any more soft injury tissues?
I'm pretty sure they shot him up for the Super Bowl, to be honest with you.
What's that?
They shot him up for the Super Bowl.
Because of his ankle, you mean?
His ankle. I mean, he tried to cut or something. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to see. Hopefully, he's had a healthy offseason. There's been no injuries.
At this point, he's going to have to prove me wrong.
Yeah, I'm telling you now, he had a terrible, terrible ass medical staff with the Giants. And look, Tyreek Hill had a ton of soft injury tears all the time between his calves, his thighs, his quads. He tore everything. He always had something stretched. I mean, his last 3 years with us was Tyreek Hill limping off the field every time he did something. Mm-hmm. And that's common when you work your legs out a lot and put that much pressure on them all the time. That's why Sammy Watkins didn't have soft injury issues. He had every other injury because he didn't work out as much. He wasn't the built, ripped guy that everybody else you see in the league. Mm-hmm. I don't think Tony's going to have that problem. They ended it pretty much after that last little tightness that he had in his hamstring. He never had another soft injury issue. His ankle was a tweak, and he was fine after that. I'm not concerned with him.
I wish I had your optimism.
So exciting to see the receiving corps this year because you have so many unknowns, but you have so many players in the mix. I mean, I think we have more players in the mix right now than we had last season on potential lineups, and I think that's kind of a cool thing. I think also, too, think about this, though, just for a second. Predictability, right? That's what people say killed us 2 years ago. Not being predictable this year is kind of what opened the door. So what do you think this next season is going to be?
It's going to be insane.
Nobody's really going to know what the hell we're going to be throwing to besides MVS, right?
And or Kelsey.
Or Kelsey, yeah.
Yeah, but even when Kelsey gets the ball, you still don't know what the hell he's going to do.
That's a good point. He might throw the ball backwards. He might do a twirl. You never know what he's going to do.
That dude, he'll do some kind of silhouette, and the next thing you know, Mahomes got the ball again, 15 yards back, and just throws a bomb to MVS. I mean, he just – yeah, man. I mean, I've never seen that in a tight end ever. I've never seen anything like that in a tight end. I thought Tony Gonzalez was good. I'm sorry. He got shit on Kelsey when it comes to moves. He just doesn't. No, but if anybody else has any questions, let us spit them out now. I will say this. They're working on maybe bringing back Frank Clark. They're trying to. And I don't know about Dunlap yet, but I know they want to bring Frank Clark back. He wants to come back simply because he wants to play with the Chiefs, but he wants to get his playoff sack record and then retire. And
so what's your guys' opinion on the cornerback? Is it Shamari Connor out of Virginia Tech? What do you guys think about him? I hadn't seen much tape on him. Don't know much about him.
Well, I don't know if we want to get into it because we'll be on the show for another 30 minutes. So I do have some thoughts on it, but I'll say this, and this is all I'll say tonight. He's very L'Jarius Sneed-esque, and if you want to hear why I think that, you're gonna have to come back tomorrow.
Yeah. Or you know what? We may save it and go over this on the Wednesday show, what we went over today, and save it for the Thursday show. But we don't know
yeah,
yet.
okay, we can do that.
Good idea.
Yeah.
I'm game.
I do want to thank Manscaped for sponsoring our show. And for all you guys out there listening, I want to tell you something. And I'm going to spit this because I really don't care. Brad, if you want to get off now, you can. I know this bothers you. You hate the name Manscaped. Scape your balls and you'll feel a lot better. But they sent us all a package to try out before we even started this thing. And I'm not one to read scripted stuff, so I'm not going to do it. It's an absolutely amazing kit. It does everything you want it to do and then some. And it's not just about your lower half to make it friendly for Brad. They have cologne, they have body wash, they have shampoo,
Stuff for your beard.
Stuff for your beard, Quentin.
I did defluff a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, they've got everything you'd want for a man. I mean, it's not this, you got to go to some special place to buy something for a man, or you got to go to it, and it's all right there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you use all you got to do is go to manscaped.com and use the promo code CheeseFocus. It doesn't matter what you get. Start off small. I don't care. Look, this is the kit. This is the kit that we got sent. If anybody can see that. Can you see it? I can see it.
Yeah.
It comes with everything you need, including some extremely comfortable underwear. So I'm telling you, man, I want like 5 pair of those because they're just amazing. But I would tell you guys, go on there, check it out, get something small. If you do, send us a proof of receipt. I'll enter you in for the contest to win this 4.0 kit that's sitting next to me. And you will be happy. Your significant other will be happy. And your balls will be happy. I don't know what else to say. You're going to have happy nuggets. It just is what it is. And if your nuggets have never been happy, look, I want to show you this really quick because I don't want you to look like this. If you guys look at all, and let me find this picture really quick. Oh, I don't have it on here yet. I got to bring it back. I'm going to bring a picture up for you guys because here's a great one.
Hey, Doug said he got the kit.
Is that what your shit looks like? Does it look like that? If it does, clean it up.
Make sure you use our promo code for free shipping. And
free shipping and 20% off your entire order. I mean, you can't really go wrong. Look at this. That's all the stuff. I mean, it's got everything. You can't go wrong. But make sure you check it out really quick. You'll be happy. Everybody will be happy. And I promise you'll enjoy it. But with that being said, we will talk to you guys again on Thursday. We appreciate it. Yeah. Well, actually, tomorrow night on our other channel, we'll be on Fantasy Sports Corporation tomorrow night at the same time. Join in. And then Thursday, we're going to go over the other half of the draft, and we're also going to go over the undrafted free agents. With that being said, I appreciate everybody joining. We love you guys. Get your balls cleaned up, and we will talk to you again on Wednesday. Peace out, everybody.